साधुने वंदन करता सम्यक दर्शन मुझने मर्जो सम्यक ज्ञान मुझने मर्जो सम्यक चारित्र मुझने मर्जो नव पद्मी आराधना करता
Hi everybody, welcome to our second health and wellbeing webinar of 2024.
Poonam, I think you need your sound on.
I've got my
I can
sound
hear
on.
sound is on.
Sorry about that. So welcome everybody to our second health and wellbeing webinar of 2024. I'm Poonam Shah, and together with Rajvi Punathar, we are hosting today's webinar. Hi Rajvi, if you're able to come online.
Hi Poonam.
Hi, welcome Rajvi. So today, together with Rajvi, we are we're very privileged to bring a topic to this webinar that is close to so many people's lives, and yet one that is not talked about enough in South Asian communities, and that is fertility and the myths and the taboos that accompany this topic. So our speaker for today is somebody who's quite well known in this field, and that is Rakhi Shah. Rakhi, welcome to our webinar. Hi, Rakhi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So Rakhi is a holistic fertility and functional nutrition medicine practitioner. And having been through her own fertility challenges and now a mom to 15-year-old twins conceived via IVF, she fully understands the issues that couples face when going through their own fertility journeys. Retraining in advanced holistic fertility therapies, she now gives support to her clients in ways she knows are important to help them on their own journey and help fulfill their dreams of becoming parents. So we'll start off today's webinar with a presentation from Rakhi on this topic. She will also touch upon her own journey. We will then open up the floor for Q&A. So throughout the presentation, we are going to be posting a link in your chat for you to submit your questions anonymously. And that's the way that these questions will then be shared with Rakhi for her to give her opinion on it. I would also like to say that the slides that Rakhi will present today will be available on our website for future reference. So Rakhi, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you. Okay. I hope everyone can see that. So, Jai Janendra to all, and thank you, OAUK, for allowing me the opportunity to present this evening on a topic that I am so passionate about, but one we definitely don't talk enough about. So thank you, Poonam for the introduction. So as Poonam said, I'm Rakhi. I'm married to Baran, and I am mum to twins, Sham and Shivani, who were conceived via IVF. And when I mentioned this when they were born, people were like, oh my God, you had IVF. And that's how our story started. We had IVF because we learnt that we had male factor infertility, meaning that we had sperm issues that were stopping us from conceiving naturally. But looking back at the situation now, I can recognize so many things that were affecting our journey, including stuff that I had myself, such as menstrual issues that I was having, but no medical doctor ever picked up on. Paran has suffered from gut health issues and eczema, which both can affect sperm. There is also a genetic predisposition to heart health issues, which again can massively affect sperm. I personally used to suffer from really heavy, painful periods. I had fibroids, and for those who don't know what fibroids are, they're non-cancerous growths that develop in the muscular wall of the womb and uterus. These growths are made up of muscle and tissue, can be of different sizes, but can cause period pains, heavy flows, long bleeds, to the extent that I was becoming anemic. I used to be someone who used to feel cold temperature-wise all the time. I had a lot of premenstrual symptoms. I had spotting before my period, which now I know are signs that it could have been potentially low progesterone. And I do wonder whether I also had a underactive thyroid as well. So being vegetarian, I also felt that we were very healthy. It doesn't mean that you can't be vegetarian. We didn't smoke, we didn't drink, or totally like social drinkers. So why did we struggle? A trip to the GP referred us to this fertility specialist who looked at all our test results, identified male factor, and told us that IVF was the only option for us. We were devastated, of course, but relieved that there was a reason. Prior to our conception journey, though, I took up training to be a complementary therapist, just as a hobby, just as a sideline, never any intention of doing it full time. But it's what I then changed to. One course led to another and another and another. I'm probably qualified in about 20 different therapies now. But it was the diagnosis of infertility that made Paran and I decide to try and do something different that would help us on our journey. Because back then, the waiting time to be referred for NHS IVF was 3 years. So can you imagine having tried for so long and then to be told you have to wait another 3 more years before we could qualify for any medical help? So what did we do? We undertook acupuncture and sought help from a nutritionist. Unfortunately, it was someone who didn't understand the Indian culture, so didn't understand Shakarotli and Darbhat and all of that. So some of the changes that she was suggesting, we found some of them to be difficult, but we tried to implement as much as we could. And I'm going to say to all of us that actually our properly cooked home Shakarotli, Darbhat, all of that can actually, is helpful in the fertility diet, and it's fertility friendly too. So once the twins arrived, and being really open about our journey, that's when I decided to retrain as a holistic fertility specialist, and have been helping couples with conception issues for the past 10 years. And I've probably helped birth hundreds of babies now. But it was the journey of not knowing who to turn to, who to get support from, parents not understanding, family not understanding what was happening, that made me do this journey and specialize even more, because it's a really dark, lonely journey. And I was like, if I can help just one person, then, I've done something to help them. But throughout the journey and throughout my last 10 years, what I've come to learn that it's really your gut health and mental health that really affect your fertility journey, which then has led me currently to training in functional nutritional medicine with rapid relief homeopathy and coaching. Gut health, I believe, is the epitome to all of our health. Many of my clients have been told that IVF is the only option, have come to me, worked with me, and gone on to conceive naturally. How? Why? Well, yeah, your guess is as good as mine. So what is infertility? Infertility is where a couple have been trying to conceive, having regular sexual intercourse, has not fallen pregnant yet, or are struggling to stay pregnant. They must have been trying for at least 18 to 24 months if the woman is under the age of 35, and 12 months if she's over 35, before they can go to the doctors and ask for help. Can you imagine 2 years? And then you have to wait. And then one of the other awful things of trying is a woman has to have had 3 recurrent miscarriages before, again, she will be referred to any testing to see why she's miscarrying. I mean, 1 alone is bad enough, but 3, that's really, really difficult. So the stats are that it apparently affects 1 in 6 couples, and that it's actually going to increase to 1 in 3. And that's really crazily scary. I mean, cancer alone, I think at the moment is 1 in 2. So can you imagine infertility is going to become like close to that stat? We're also waiting to try for a baby much, much later than previous generations. I mean, you know, my daddy ma used to say, oh, mara lagan 14 varshe thai gaya tha, natara thai jawa jo hai. You know, they were having their babies at like 18, 19. Their family was complete by the time they were 25. Most of the clients that I now see at the moment are, you know, between 38 and 45. So imagine how much later we are having them, and this is for them trying for their first babies. And then the journey can actually be even longer, because by the time you've done tests and treatments and all that, a lot more time has typically gone ahead. So tests that the woman has to have, which you may be aware of, which you may not be aware of. So the first port of call is blood tests, and some of these are done at specific times of the cycle, some of them are not. So like, for example, LH, FSH is your day 2 test, and progesterone typically is day 21. However, not everyone is a typical 28-day textbook cycle. So often this is done on day 21, but it may not be day 21 for the lady. And the other one that is an issue, in my opinion, with the NHS is the thyroid. They don't do the full thyroid test. They only test for 2 out of the 5. They test for TSH and T4. And your TSH levels can come into the normal range, but you actually may still have a thyroid issue because your antibodies haven't been tested for. Then other tests are abdominal ultrasound scan, having a look at what your ovaries are doing, internal examination to see what your womb health is like. They'll test you for sexually transmitted diseases. This is one of the most invasive ones, HSG. I cannot pronounce the name, but it's a dye test where they check to see whether your tubes are actually open or if you've got blocked tubes. And then the last one, which rarely happens, you've got to really push for it, is a laparoscopy. And this is really, really useful if you have conditions like endometriosis, because that is one of the biggest conditions that affects infertility. And the man, look at that, simple semen analysis, maybe some blood tests. So come on, if you're a man, you can do this. Can you see like how many tests a woman has to go through and how many a man has to go through? And women, you know, have to go through some invasive tests. So go on, men, please go and have your sperm test done. So what could be the causes of infertility? So for the woman, menstrual issues. So the presentation that is on the Oshwal website has it detailed in great details that all the conditions that could affect it. But menstrual conditions such as your, like I said, endometriosis, PCOS, fibroids, there could be egg issues, so such as poor quality, therefore ovulating too early, quantity. Obviously, you know, as we age, your egg reserve declines, poor ovulation, or even premature ovulation failure, which means that many women are heading into menopause before they are 40. Immunological issues such as any autoimmune conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, colitis, Hashimoto's, which is like, you know, part of the thyroid disease. Inflammatory issues, this is a big one, and a big one that we're facing a lot. Most of it's digestive issues, which can then lead on to some other like menstrual issues and vice versa. Period pains are inflammatory issues, and anyone who is told that period pains are normal, please note they are not normal. There are conditions such as molar and chemical pregnancies. So molar can actually be a cancerous pregnancy, and chemical is where you test for pregnancy and then next day you haven't tested for pregnancy but your period hasn't arrived. So it's a chemical imbalance. Nutritional deficiencies, some of the big ones are being low in folic acid, B12, iron, vitamin D. Those all affect whether someone can get pregnant, or it can affect conception chances. Some contraception choices are known to affect, for some women, birth control pills, the intrauterine devices, so like the coil, and some women may have been sterilized and want to reverse it, and that could also cause issues for infertility as well. And secondary. So secondary is where you already have a child or children, and then you want to try for some more and you are struggling to conceive. Secondary is becoming a lot more prominent in society today. One of the biggest reasons of secondary is C-section. So if your first delivery was C-section, I would urge you to go to your GP and ask them to check for your C-section scar, because that's been known to cause secondary infertilities. And also secondary is because life is no longer the same as it was for when you had your first child. You know, first child, you didn't have the commitment of that child. You could spend more time on fitness, health, well-being. You could sleep more. And now with children in tow, I think sleep is the first thing that goes out of the window. And that is one of the biggest things that affects us as well. And then unexplained. Is it really unexplained, or what is happening? And then for men, it's most likely to be sperm. There may be some hormonal. So if you're a man who has thyroid issues or is diabetic, that can absolutely cause issues with the sperm. You've got nutritional deficiencies, lifestyle. We're a nation where we are a lot more sedentary. We're eating a lot more processed foods, and you know, the toxicity around us is also affecting us. However, every man should consider improving their well-being and sperm, even if you feel there's nothing wrong with you or the tests show that nothing is wrong with you, because after all, you are creating the most precious thing in your life. So let's delve into unexplained reasons. So no medical reason has been found. And by this, I mean no physical reason, as in, you know, sperm is fine, your hormones are fine, all of that is fine. But, you know, is it, have they looked deep enough? It can be reassuring, but it's still frustrating because you don't have a reason as to why you are not conceiving. It does account to about 20% of cases of infertility. However, I think unexplained is going to reduce, and the male-female ratio is probably going to go up. So if it's still unexplained, is there a reason? As I mentioned with the blood tests, could you have had your tests too soon? Possibly, and therefore they could be inconclusive. A cause hasn't been found with the test. So again, this goes back to the physical problems. There's no physical problem that's been identified. But what hasn't been identified is any emotional, psychological, or nutritional reasons. And this is connected to more gut health issues, mindset, even like physical or emotional abuse or trauma from a young age. That can all have an effect on our body. So those are things that no doctors or medical people within the fertility industry will look into or look at to see as to why you are not conceiving. So these are some of the options to that are available if you have been on the fertility journey and you have been recommended for assisted treatments. They start from ovulation down to ICSI. They're the level of invasiveness. So ovulation stimulating drugs such as Clomid, tamoxifen, Femara, they're all drugs that are given to potentially try and encourage ovulation, and they're given to women who even ovulate naturally. So there's a bit of a question mark as to why. But I'm not sure whether people realize or not, but Clomid has been linked to ovarian cancer. Clomid also can produce multiple eggs. Therefore, you have the risk of multiple births and overstimulation. Tamoxifen is a breast cancer drug, and metformin is used to try and reverse PCOS. Then you've got IUI. So IUI is where the woman, again, is given drugs like Clomid or letrozole to stimulate her ovaries. And then the guy has to give a semen sample, and then that is put through a tube into the woman, and sperm swim up. So it's almost like conception naturally, but just slightly assisted. And then you have IVF, which is where the Woman is given lots and lots of drugs to shut down her body, stimulate her ovaries, create lots of follicles in the hope that each follicle will have little eggs in them. Then she has to go under a small procedure where egg collection happens, and you don't know how many eggs are going to get collected. You may have about 20 follicles, thinking, okay, you'll collect 20 eggs, and in the end, actually, you may only have 4 or 5. So there's no guarantee that just because you've got lots of follicles, you will gain loads of eggs. They then get put into a Petri dish. The partner has to give his sperm sample. That's put into the Petri dish, and then it's survival of the fittest. Fertilization happens, and then usually it's a fresh transfer. Sometimes it's a frozen transfer. And ICSI is just literally the same as IVF, except it's an individual sperm that is injected into an individual egg. So you think, oh, okay, that's a higher chance of conception, but that could also risk damaging the egg at the same time. And then donor egg and sperm, as the name suggests, is where you would use a donor egg or sperm depending on your situation. And therefore, you know, aim to try and create embryos that way. And surrogacy, I've had 2 clients do this, where biologically the child is theirs, but then a third person is carrying that pregnancy for them. So what happens now? I get a lot of my clients saying, I don't want IVF, and you don't have to have IVF. Again, depending on your symptoms and what's going on. I have clients who have come to me having had failed IVF cycles because it just hasn't worked. You can get pregnant, but you can't stay pregnant. And there's nothing wrong with either of us, so why can't we get pregnant? So I always say that IVF is not always the answer. So remember that IVF doesn't guarantee a pregnancy either. And there's many reasons as to why you can't stay pregnant. Again, it comes down to egg quality, sperm quality, hormonal issues, inflammation, autoimmune. And not getting pregnant, well, again, you may not have covered all the bases as mentioned in the unknown category before. So what can you do? There are many ways to help yourself. Your food choices, your lifestyle choices, emotional well-being, and physical well-being. So food choices. This is where I would recommend you eat as organic as possible and unrefined whole foods as possible. Organic, if you're peeling the food item, it doesn't need to be organic, but if you're eating it as it is, again, as organic. But again, this comes down to financial and commitment and all that, and sometimes you can go overboard. So as long as you're eating as healthily as possible and as wide a variety as possible, you should be okay. Balance the plate. This is where I see being a vegetarian is often where we don't balance the plate. We are very good at having a very, very carb heavy diet, but we don't balance it with protein and good fats. Protein is really needed because it's the basics of the building blocks of the cells that you have. And fats being your good fats. So things like nuts, seeds, avocados, olives oil, hummus, guacamole, ghee, butter. Avoid cooking with vegetable oil or sunflower oil. I know we Indians are very clever at going to buy those big dabbas of oil and then storing them. Use coconut oil, avocado oil, those sorts of oils to cook with. And then with the protein, if you're non-veg, it's much easier to get your protein requirements. But if you're vegetarian, it's not impossible, but you just got to understand and know what are good proteins and how to balance out their meals. But you'd be surprised at, you know, some of the protein sources. Water. So this is where you are advised to drink filtered water as opposed to tap water. Tap water does have a few more chemicals in them, and this can lead to metal toxic elements in the body. Drink filtered water, ideally from glass or metal. And if you're using jugs like Brita, that's fine, but ensure it's BPA free. And avoid mineral water like your Buxton and Evian and all of those, because bottles actually have a BPA lining coated in them. And you also don't know how long that water has been sitting in that bottle on the shelf and what other issues it has had. So this is a big one, going gluten-free and dairy-free. Most of my clients I tend to see are of the Indian origin, and one of the things I see is we have a wheat-heavy diet. So one of the things I do recommend for anyone who is suffering with anything, especially if you've got any autoimmune conditions, is going wheat-free. So I know that means no more like, corny rotli, bread, pasta, biscuits, etc., etc. But there are so many better alternatives out there, and it will give your gut a rest. It will give your conditions, it will give you some healing, and it will also help you with your fertility journey. I know from personal experience, when I have reduced the wheat from my diet, my periods are so much better. I'm less bloated, and yeah, it just helps overall. However, what this also means is that you don't now go down the supermarket aisle, go to the free from range and go and buy the processed gluten-free breads or the processed pastas or biscuits. Because if you read the ingredients, you'll see like there's a massive list of ingredients in there. And there's so many additives and preservatives that you're just moving from one inflammation to another set of inflammation as well. And then I always get asked, what supplements should I be taking? I don't answer that only because I don't know your background, your health, your lifestyle, and everyone needs different supplements. So I recommend supplements to my clients based on their needs. So it's a bespoke plan for them. And also, without knowing what medication you are on, you can't take certain supplements because it counteracts the medication. Also, certain supplements will deplete other nutritional values. So it's really, really worth speaking to a nutritional therapist who understands what supplements do, what you do need, what you don't need, based on just, your lifestyle and whatever else is going on. For example, taking, so the whole thing about vitamin D, we're told take vitamin D, take vitamin D, take vitamin D, but vitamin D actually messes up your calcium levels in the body if they're not balanced in the first place. Vitamin D, calcium is then needed for the thyroid. So again, if you've got thyroid issues and you've been taking vitamin D tablets, I'm not saying that is a thing, but just something to be wary about. Also, the quality that you take also matters. So going into some of the high street stores or supermarkets and just picking something off the shelf is not ideal. Once you learn more about mineral types and vitamin types, you'll understand. So if you're taking anything that starts with anti-caking agents, bulking agents, magnesium stearate, maltodextrin, that's really poor quality nutrition that's put into the tablet to bind it before you're taking what you need. And then think things like zinc oxide, magnesium oxide. Anything oxide is your most lowest quality of that mineral. You want to go for things like ascorbates, citrates, piclinates. They are better quality and you'll absorb that better into the body. This is a given. I don't really need to go much into this, but these are things that will really affect egg health and sperm health. Cigarettes particularly are known to cause preterm labor and low birth weight. And remember, baby's lungs aren't developed. So if you're a smoker around your baby, you're not allowing for its lungs to be developed. Processed foods, again, we are a nation that is losing the art of cooking. We have things like Deliveroo and Uber Eats, and we all work hard, granted. We come home, we're exhausted. The last thing you want to do is cook a proper healthy meal. But what you eat throughout the day makes a difference to that energy in the evening. And, what you're eating is also affecting any inflammation you're presenting with, any health concerns you're presenting with, poor egg quality, sperm health, all of that comes from the food you eat and how your gut processes it. Processed food we know holds no nutritional value at all. So cooking as fresh as you can using unprocessed ingredients as much as you can obviously is the best way forward. And I always say to my clients, batch cook. If you batch cook at the weekends, then you haven't got the reasons to not have food in your fridge or ovens ready to eat, and be satisfied with that as well. So I get a lot of people who will come to me. I'm on a I'm on a diet, or I'm on low fat this, or diet this, or low sugar, etc. Your body needs the fat, and I'm going to repeat that. Your body needs the fat. The fat is there to support the hormones, especially progesterone, thyroid, cholesterol, all of that. And having low fat stuff, you're depriving the hormones of what they need. So avoiding anything that's low fat, no fat diet, low sugar is the better choice, because it's stripped of whatever it's been stripped of, but then it's had some other processing put back into it to make it taste good. And more often than not, it's artificial sweeteners or preservatives that are put back into that product. So go for, if you're drinking cow's milk, go for full fat organic cow's milk. It's what we use in our house because we make whey at home. I drink almond milk because I can't tolerate dairy, but our kids still have full fat organic milk. And go for full fat Greek yogurt, and not even Greek style yogurt, but full fat Greek yogurt or natural bio yogurts. Avoid fruit flavored yogurts. So moving on to some lifestyle tips. This one is a biggie. People really, really are underestimating the power of sleep. We, again, have become a nation where we are obsessed by Netflix and Amazon and our phones and Insta and everything, that we're going to bed much, much later. We're waking up tired. We're not having enough sleep. Your body heals itself when it is sleeping. And then the ideal sleep time is from 10:30 at night till about 5:30 in the morning. If you can sleep between those hours peacefully, then your body will start to heal where it needs the help. And this is another biggie. It's been shown that electronic gadgets, mobile phones, even things like, the Fitbits and all of that. I'm not a fan of wearing your Fitbit to bed. Why do you need to wear it to bed? What's the sleep data showing you, or what you're doing with the sleep data? Remove any electronic gadgets from the bedroom, because the EMFs are really messing with everything. The other thing I see and hear a lot of is that people will have their phone in the bedroom, charging on the bedside unit, in line with their brain. Just think what that's doing to your brain at night. And I'm guilty of keeping my phone in my room sometimes, and where I've forgotten to put it onto airplane mode, I've had the worst night's sleep that night, because it's just been emitting. So I'm sensitive to that. We try not to have it, or it's on airplane mode totally. And then I get clients saying, oh, but it's my alarm clock. Well, you know what? Go and buy an alarm clock. It doesn't have to be a snazzy one, just something that's going to wake you up and get you out of bed. So you don't need your phone in the bedroom at nighttime. And that goes for the same as laptops, iPads, even televisions. If you have a television, unplug it, switch it off. The bedroom should typically be your haven for sleep, but having downtime before bed is really important as well. And again, this doesn't mean that you spend the last 30 minutes, flicking through the phone. Things that could help to bring calmness to the brain are reading a physical book, nothing heavy, light reading, listening to a meditation, doing some breath work, really just focusing on breath work, letting go of any issues that you've had in the day, or even journaling. Just something that helps calm the mind before you head to bed. And as mentioned, try and get into bed for 10 to be asleep by 10:30. This really really helps the brain to be calm, because if your brain is active whilst your body is already tired and ready for bed, the brain is not going to allow the body to sleep, and you're going to have a disconnection from mind and body. This is another big one I see all the time is, again, eating dinner on the sofa in front of the television. If you have a dining table at your home, please use it. Please sit with each other. Please have conversations. But also, sitting at the dining table allows you to sit upright, means you're not squashed eating your food. You're allowing that food to go down and digest. But the biggest thing is that your focus is on your plate. It's not on the TV. So you can actually smell the food, taste the food, swivel it around in your mouth, understand what you're eating, but also, allow your senses to tell you that you're full. You can overeat by sitting at the sitting on the sofa watching TV. And I'll say to my clients, what are you watching that's live TV that you cannot wait? And literally never has anyone said this. And it's usually pre-recorded stuff, or stuff that they're streaming. You can always watch it at a later time and date. Also, try and have your dinner by 8. I've put 8. Ideal time would be 7, because you need 2 to 3 hours from the time you have eaten to the time you go to bed to allow that food to digest, and therefore you're not going to sleep with a heavy stomach and food that is going to be sat there all night long. Another one is reducing your chemical toxicity exposure. It's in skincare, our cleaning products. Obviously, I've talked about electromagnetic rays. Did you know that roughly from the time you wake up in the morning, if you're heading out to work, you have potentially been exposed to almost 200 chemicals, from the soap you may be using, your toothpaste, shower gel, shampoo, skincare products, makeup, perfumes, aftershaves, deodorants, air fresheners, maybe washing up liquid. All of that is chemicalized, and it goes in through the skin. So the more we can reduce our toxicity to them, the better it's going to be, because again, these are all endocrine disruptors and will have a massive impact on your hormones as well. So, intimacy. Many couples will shy away from this when I ask them about their sex life. Without sex, obviously, you're not going to get pregnant. But if the passion has been lost, you're also not going to get pregnant. Babies are made from love, not just sex. And I know that sex can become a baby-making chore, but again, that mind-body disconnection becomes there. Couples really lose themselves as couples, and then resentment can start. The woman feels that she's missing out because, she's in her ovulatory window and she's got to have sex, and, you've got to make the baby. And then the man feels that, all she wants me is during this time. There's no love left. There's no passion left. And therefore, you're putting pressure on each other. I often say to clients, put a pause on this journey. It's, get that passion back, get that intimacy back, get the coupleness back, go back to what you were like before you started trying for a baby, and remember that, happy time, and bring yourself back into that time, because as I said, babies are made out of love. And this is more for the ladies. So many I see, I will always ask them, what do you do that is just for you? And all of the ladies watching this, I'm going to ask you as well, what do you do that is just for you? A majority of them have no answer for me. And this is where, it's not you as a wife, it's not you as a daughter, it's not you as a daughter-in-law, but it's you as you. And then I'll ask the man, and he's like, oh yeah, I go to the gym after work, and I'll meet up with the lads, etc., etc. And I feel that we still seem to be in an era where it's the woman's job to maintain the home and make sure everything is happening in the home. But truly, it's not. We're in a generation now where no job is defined by gender per se, and therefore, equality does need to come about into this. So if you are someone who is struggling for me time, I would urge you to find an activity that works for you, that you're going to enjoy, and start doing it. Next, we're going to move on to the emotional well-being. This is a really big topic for me, and this is what started me on my support for couples, because emotions are one of the biggest things that are affecting a couple on their infertility journey. We are definitely a nation who is not wanting to talk about this, and it's natural to fear that the journey isn't working. We don't want to open up about how we're feeling, how it's affecting us, what help we should be seeking, and bottling up emotions really isn't the answer. And I can understand how hard it is to open up, because I've been there myself. There are so many couples going through this. So why are we so scared to talk about it? What is it we're fearing that's going to happen to us? Or, I know it's society and pressures and the stigma and the shame that's associated with it. But my stance on this is, the more we talk about it, the more we educate, the more we can, share our stories, the more people will open up about it, and more people will understand what you're going through and can help you accordingly. So over the next few slides, I'm going to share ways that you can totally express yourself that's going to help you on this journey. So the first one is journaling. I like this one. And it really allows you to openly express what you are feeling, and how you're feeling and what you want to get out of this. There are some great fertility journaling tips or affirmations that you can use, or quotes that you can use. It's things, you can ask yourself questions. How do I want my day to go? How did my day go? What was good? What am I feeling? What upsets have I got? And it's a great way of just writing out your feelings. Therefore, you're removing the heaviness that you're feeling because of this journey. This one is one of my favorites. I do it a lot myself. It's brilliant, where you can write a letter to anything, any person, any object, any feeling, anything you want. And you can imagine that person is or thing is right in front of you, and where you may struggle to verbalize to them, you can write this out using any thought, any words, any language, whatever comes to your forefront, to really just release everything you're feeling. And then the object of it is telling your body it no longer needs to hold on to this. You can let it go, rip up the piece of paper, and then burn it. And it's that latter action that allows the body to let go. One letter may not be enough. You may need to do multiple, but it's a really good way of doing this, so that you are able to let go of any stuck feelings you have. Then we have the deep breathing. This is really powerful. We as a nation are super impatient. We want everything now. We're not in a, we don't want to wait, and it feels like we've forgotten to breathe. So right now, for those of you online, I want you to have a look at your breathing and consider, are you a shallow breather, or are you able to breathe deep enough? And if you're the former, I invite you right now to close your eyes. Take a really deep breath in through your nose. And then exhale slowly out through the mouth. Your exhalation breath should be longer than your inhalation. And if you're not, then your lung capacity isn't there. I invite you to practice this at bedtime, where you're going to do 10 deep breaths. And again, that allows you to empty out your mind and notice the difference of how you are feeling. Another powerful tool, Clare remedies. Not sure how many people have used these, but they do come in an alcoholic version and a non-alcoholic version, but each one really, really helps support any emotional stuff you're going through. There's one for mental pressure, physical pressure, miscarriages, feeling like you're covering, for everyone, feeling at a loss, don't know what direction to take. So these remedies can absolutely be powerful. But again, speak to a practitioner who knows what these remedies are and then can prescribe the right ones for you. This is something that so many people are ignoring, and purely because they feel that time is running out. Question yourself and ask yourself, is it truly running out? Or is it because the doctors have said you've got to do everything now and there's no time to wait, and off you go with it? In most cases, time is not running out. I promise you that. Time is one of the biggest healers that we have. And where it takes 3 months approximately for good quality egg and sperm to develop, you owe it to yourself and your future child or children to give yourself those 3 months to really encourage cleaning, detoxification, nourishment, de-stressing, mental well-being, physical well-being, working on any issues that are stopping you from conceiving, so that when you do, there are going to be no issues and you are going to be able to work on this completely. Perrin and I gave ourselves 9 months, and I truly believe that that's why our IVF worked on the first attempt. And also that the reason, again, like I said, IVF is because we had poor sperm quality. But I've had clients who've come to me telling me that IVF is their only option, worked with me for 3 months, 4 months, and then bang, they have been able to fall pregnant and stay pregnant and have a baby at the end of it. This is something I feel our community lacks in. There is the whole part of people that do not understand what you are going through, which is completely true. But I would really urge you, with so much information available these days, that you sit with your family and help them understand what is going on with you and how they can absolutely support you. But for the family, comments like, when are you having children? Or when are you having baby number 2? Or things like that do not help the situation at all. So please, 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 I urge you to stop those comments. And if there's any mother-in-laws here who's, who has daughter-in-laws and your children are going through this, please, can I urge you, do not put the blame on her. You don't know what the issue is, and it's not nice that you're putting pressure on her particularly. And our culture is very much like that. It's always the females who get questioned, never the males, and it's always the females who get pressure put on them in these situations when equally it could be an issue with the male partner himself. So as a woman yourself, please support your daughter-in-law. Ask them, how can you support them? Understand what they can eat, what they can't eat. Maybe cook some of the dishes that they may be struggling with, or you have time on your hands, or support them in whichever way you are able to support them. And because I find so many couples are hiding this journey because of the sheer blame and misunderstanding from external sources. So for the couples who are going through this, please try and open up to your parents and help them understand, because you know what? You may just be surprised at what help they are able to provide. Then we come on to the physical well-being. So it's really important to, there's supposed to be a video, it's not playing. Stay active, but this is not the time to start running for a marathon. Being sedentary also doesn't help either. But I'm not sure how many people know that exercising actually releases cortisol. Cortisol is your stress hormone. And if your body is already under immense stress, starting a new stressful exercise regime is not the way forward. You're better off doing, again, breath work and then gentle exercises like weight training, yoga, Pilates, or walking, something that's slow but still, is considered exercise, because when you're under stress, you're in that flight or fright mode, and you've got to come out of that and come into the rest and nourish mode. And the more you push yourself, the more you're going to take yourself the other way. For the woman, it's really, really important that she stays warm. And, as I mentioned, I used to be someone who was cold all the time, poor circulation. I had anemia. I do wonder whether I had a subclinical thyroid issue. I definitely had progesterone issues. You need to keep your feet warm, especially. And so this is where, wear socks, if you have to, slippers. And then it's also ensuring that your whole abdominal area is kept warm. So your pelvic area, your abdominal area, bum cheeks, all that. Because in Chinese medicine, there is a notion that if you have cold hands, cold feet, you have poor circulation, that denotes that your womb area is cold. So your womb area is the oven that's going to cook this baby. And you wouldn't open up an oven, put a potato in, and then without turning the dial to warm, expect that potato to cook. So the same thing is for the baby as well. Coldness is usually signs of, as I said, a thyroid issue, low iron or low progesterone, all affect your fertility journey. And then things that the man needs to avoid: anything that creates heat. So sitting in saunas or steam rooms or jacuzzis are a total no-no. Any form of cycling is a no-no. Men will often keep their mobile phones in their front pocket right by their reproductive system. Mobile phones emit a lot of heat, and that's a no-no as well. And then the other thing is a laptop on the lap. Functional tests to also consider is a hair tissue mineral analysis that measures the mineral status in your body. It's a really great test to have that measures all your macro minerals, toxic elements in the body, wherever you're eliminating. It can help identify if you're heading towards cellular underactive thyroid or overactive thyroid, what your adrenals are doing, even what your blood sugar balances are doing. If you have any autoimmune conditions, I would consider doing a comprehensive stool test, because that will also tell you what's going on with your gut. It can tell us whether there's inflammation, any leaky gut, or whether your good and bad bacteria are doing well. Another test is the Dutch Plus, which again tells you about your sex hormones and your adrenal functions. Whether you're waking up with the right cortisol levels, are they staying high, are they staying low, and what you need to do about them. And this last one, I would urge every female who is undergoing any fertility issues to have done, because it tests for your antibodies as well as your thyroid hormones, not just TSH and T4 that the NHS are only testing for. So just some myths that I come across. Miscarriages are a woman's fault. Not always, as in it's no one's fault, but sperm issues can be one of the reasons as to why a woman miscarries. She has done nothing in particular. So whether she's sneezed or picked up a heavy basket or eaten the wrong food and things like that, that is not going to cause a miscarriage. Miscarriage will happen because there's something, there's an issue with either the embryo itself or womb environment or hormonal imbalances. It's always a woman's fault problem. As I mentioned, no, it can be a male factor issue as well. And remember, it's, trauma that's been experienced as well. So if a man has experienced trauma from his father, that could then affect him because he may be worried that he may become that sort of father for his children. Men don't need to worry about their fertility. They have sperm till they die. Yes, they have sperm till they die, but fertility is now starting to decline for the man as well, post 40. So it's not a question that they will still be able to father. They may, and yes, granted, there are some men at the moment in the media who are having children much, much later in their life. But this is still something that isn't true. Only a woman needs to prepare for pregnancy. It takes two to tango. So why should it only be the woman? Remember, 50% of the baby is man and 50% is the woman, so both need to prepare for pregnancy as well. Women can't get pregnant after 35. Well, again, most of my client base are 38 to 45 getting pregnant, so this isn't true. Yes, it can be harder, and yes, there can be more complications and issues, but it doesn't mean that you can't. This definitely isn't true. Paran and I respectively were 30 and 27. So we were under the 35 age range, and now with more lifestyle issues and nutritional issues, infertility is definitely going to affect those under 35. Secondary infertility, as I mentioned, is on the rise. And also remember, your life isn't what it used to be before you had your first child. Sleepless nights, additional persons, pressure, lifestyle changes, all of these have an effect and especially men who think, well, hang on, I've just fathered one child, so it can't be me. Men can actually have sperm issues post having had a child as well. This is a biggie. And like I said, unless you're a textbook 28-day cycle, and even then there's no guarantee that it's day 14, ovulation can occur literally any time in the cycle. Ideal days you do want it to occur is between days 13 and 15, but it can occur anytime earlier or later. But outside of that range, you're going to have egg quality issues. Yes and no. This shouldn't be the reality of the infertility journey, because there are many cases and couples that I come across that IVF hasn't helped them get them pregnant, and it's not the answer to your infertility issues. Look into why you're not getting pregnant, work on those, and then before you know it, you will probably fall pregnant naturally. So thank you very much for listening in on the presentation. I do hope you've learnt a bit about what the infertility is, issues that are pertaining, things that can help you, myths that hopefully have been busted, and that, you know, like I said, as a community, we really need to start talking about this a lot more, and then being able to share openly so that more and more people understand, more and more people can be approached, and more help can be given. So I'm going to hand it back over to Rajvi.
Hi, Raki, thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant. I loved your very forthright approach. It was so informative, and you didn't beat about the bush. Really excellent. Thank you so much. And we have got quite a few questions that have come in. For those of you who are joining us, if you'd like to submit a question, please do so on the chat, either on YouTube or on Zoom. There is a link if you want to do it anonymously. Today's webinar has been recorded, and it will be available on the Oshwal YouTube channel, also through a link on our website. The presentation that Raki has given will also be up there with some additional information on it. Is that correct, Raki, as well? And this webinar is the second one this year. We actually had one also on body image and eating disorders. So that is also available in the same places. So both of these webinars are excellent sources. If you have friends or family who weren't able to join us today, please do share the links with them and get them to view them. So we're now going over to the Q&A session, and I'm really pleased that we are also going to be joined by Raki's husband, Baren. Baren, if you can please come on screen. Hi, Baren. Welcome.
Hello.
For those of you may also recognize Baren, because last year he was a participant in our men's health webinar. So Baren, he's an old hand at this as well. Really pleased that you can join us. This is very much a joint journey. So I'm just going to kick off with one of the first questions, because this is actually something I'd like to go to Baren to, and then perhaps Raki. This is a comment that we've received from one of our viewers who've said this is a topic very close to home. So clearly they've been through this. It took me and my wife many years to open up about our challenges. And once we did, it was a game changer. And then he asked, how do we bring this more to the forefront so others don't suffer alone? So, Farhan, from a man's point of view, how hard was it for you to talk about this to friends and family? And when you did, what was your experience?
So initially, it was obviously I was ashamed, especially when we got the results, saying it was my issue. But after a while, facts are facts. You can't change them. I was quite open, and once once we conceived and we were having twins, a lot of people go, "Wow, you're having twins?" And I said, "Yes." It's quite a high probability when you're having IVF. And they
Sure.
went, IVF? I went, yes, we had IVF. They went, wow, you're open. I went, well, there's nothing shameful about IVF. As such, we had to have it. Well, we did then. And they then a lot of people will come to me and go, oh, by the way, we've tried and we're going down the IVF route, but we haven't told anyone, so please don't tell anyone. Or I'd get loads of messages saying, Paran, between you and me, don't tell anyone, please, not your family, no one else. We're having issues. And I would just be honest and say, look, it's better to be out. And that way people around you can support you as well.
Yeah, sure. And Raki, for you, I mean, obviously we talked about, or you mentioned clearly there is this difference between how men are treated and women are treated. Does that make it harder for women to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned, in any breast function, it's always a woman's like, oh, when are you having children? And you've got to think, well, hang on, it's not just me who has to have the child. It's a joint effort. Why are men never asked, this question?
Ooh.
And sometimes I'd say, hang on, let me just go and call Para. And they're like, oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. I was like thinking, okay, no. So it's the first thing I think everyone has to realize is these are really sensitive questions. So one, do not ask them because you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But two, if you're feeling strong enough and open, if you're the person who's been asked, just say, share to people, look, we are having struggles. We're going through treatments or medical or whatever, however much you want to share. Because I always believe if we don't share, how are people going to get educated? And this is the whole thing. And like, Sham and Shivani know that they were IVF conceived, they joke about it. But I want them to know, because future down the line, it could be them who are having that trouble. And with, diet, lifestyle, like the way the lives are going, it is going to be one of those things that more and more people are going to be struggling. So the more people are able to share, and as Paran said, it was amazing how many people opened up to us saying, oh my God, okay, we're struggling, can you help us? And we're like, what do you want to know? We'll tell you from nitty gritty to whatever you want to tell us, because, we're not the first to have had it and we won't be the last to have it. So sharing our experiences, if that supports someone going through it, then my thing is just be open about all of those things. I think we're so closed about any health issues that we have that it just, look at the mental issues, mental health issues that we've got, because people are so closed about what they're experiencing.
Okay, thank you. Great answers, both of you.
Raki, I'm gonna come to you with a question on, you've touched upon diet quite a lot here in your presentation and just now as well, diet and lifestyle. So there are a couple of questions coming through, and I'm going to summarize all in one. What's the ideal diet and lifestyle to follow if somebody's planning to go through for IVR or IUI? And also, following on from that, what should they follow in terms of diet and lifestyle if they have a transfer coming up, say in the next 1 month or so?
Okay.
And then after post transfer as well. So the three questions,
Yeah.
easier to answer.
So if you're able to allow yourself 3 to 6 months before you can start any sort of treatment, there is no particular diet per se. Like, you have the autoimmune diet, and you have the paleo diet, and you have the Mediterranean diet. It's a balanced diet as much as possible. So your good sources of protein, your good sources of fat, your good sources of carb, hydration in the form of water, limiting your caffeine and all of that. So as long as you can cover that and you have no other health issues, then that should absolutely be adequate enough to support you. If you have bloating issues or autoimmune issues or anything like that, as I mentioned, cut out the gluten. And even if you want to cut out the gluten, cut out the gluten, because that's going to help bring down any inflammation your body is presenting. And that's for you both, not just the woman. It applies to you both, because if the man's got poor gut health, his sperm is not getting the nutrition he needs. In terms of if someone's coming up to a transfer, again, without knowing more about what's going on with them, it's difficult to say. But again, eating as cleanly as possible, less processed foods, eating as much home-cooked foods as possible. And post-transfer, same. If you've been eating a certain healthy way, continue that through, because that's what your body recognizes, and that's what's going to support all the aspects.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Rajvi.
Yes. So we've got a question. You mentioned about the age, and so someone's asking, at what age should one consider to do IVF, and what are the possible side effects?
So there is no real age. I always say to clients, if you've been trying for let's say you've been trying for 1 to 2 years, and then you've done the lifestyle changes, give yourself 3 to 6 months post those lifestyle changes. And then if you're still struggling and there's still no success, then consider going down the IVF route, but exhaust all the other options. IVF should be your last resort. Someone like myself should be the first, where at the moment it's the other way around. People source IVF first and then come to me because they're stuck. So there is no real age. The thing is, you've got to see the clinic, because on the NHS, clinic cutoff times are 35, 38 to 40, just depending on which clinic and which borough you're in. And some private IVF clinics will cut you off at probably about 42 or 45.
When you say cut you off, you mean
won't offer you the treatment at all.
Unless you're that age?
No, that's the cutoff age. So if you've gone past that age, they won't offer you the treatment.
Oh, but that seems very low.
Yeah.
So say that again, so just so that people are
So
clear.
some clinics will not offer you treatment on the NHS if you are either post 35, post 38, or post 40, depending on which clinic and which borough you fall under. And some private IVF clinics won't offer you treatment past either between 42 and 45 years old.
Wow, that's a lot younger than I was expecting. Anyway,
yeah.
Interesting. And so
side effects could be nothing to everything. So when we went through our IVF, I believe that because we did all that work beforehand, my liver was in a really strong place. Liver health is really important through IVF, and I sell through my IVF. And I've known clients who've had headaches, nausea, severe weight gain. They've been overstimulated, so they already look heavily pregnant, but that's just because the follicles are really grown massively, to then having to have IVF cycles cancelled because it's more risk on their health to continue.
Okay, thank you.
So the next question I'm just going to ask is around what special care should they take once transfer is done to ensure success?
I'd be honest and say none, because live your life as you are. Don't have any don't feel you have to be special around the care, because if you've naturally conceived, you have no idea that you're pregnant, so you will just carry on with your life. I get it that you've had IVF, you've got the embryo in there, so it's a special thing. I would say just keep going as you are. Obviously, like I said, this isn't the time to then go run for a London Marathon or do a bungee jump or anything like that. But if your day-to-day is normal civilian lifestyle, carry on with that.
Okay, thank you.
So here's a question, sort of two parts, but it's for both of you to answer. So this person has said, having been through their own journey, they feel there's a lot of focus on female factors. Where can men go to get help? Perhaps, Baran, you can address that. And then the second part is, much of the help is private and expensive. How do we know if a clinic is just taking our money or helping? Baran, first over to you about what men can do and where they can get help.
I actually don't know where men can go help, but what you can do is talk to your friends, and they're your friends for a reason, and you should be open with your friends. I've always said this with my friends is that when women get together, they always talk about their health conditions. You know, how's one's periods? How's this? How's that? Men won't say a single thing. They could be having the most painful, I don't know, poos, but they will never discuss it with their buddies because they're just so ashamed. Actually, the other day I met up with my friends, and I think one by one we all just said, right, how's everyone going? And actually, one of them did mention that he was having something painful, and we just all discussed it. Said, right, I had that, and it's a taboo that everyone needs to break. That men do need to become more in that way, more female, and discuss it with their friend circle.
Yeah, that's very true. And the question about expense, and hang on, I'll just go through that again, because it's how much of the help is private. You mentioned on NHS and what can be done through NHS. Was that true of the private clinics and how expensive it is? And how do we know if a clinic is just taking our money or helping?
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer the male question first. So there are people like urologists and andrologists who you can actually go to because they specialize in male fertility and all of that. Jonathan Ramsey is a really good person. He's very, very busy, but is an amazing urologist and andrologist. So, and Brian Woodward as well. So they're two really good people that, if you're struggling on the male side, to absolutely go for. With regards to treatments and stuff, so NHS hands are tied in that they can only offer a really small amount of the IVF treatment. For example, you may have an autoimmune condition or immunological condition that is stopping you from staying pregnant, but unfortunately the NHS won't support you in there, so you have to typically go privately. Obviously privately they can charge whatever they want to charge, so shop around for the clinic. And this is where I would ask questions as to, why are you recommending that treatment? What is it going to help me with? Is it absolutely necessary? And again, this is where opening up to your friends, if they've had treatment, saying, I've been recommended this. Does anyone know anything about this? What do you suggest?
Yeah.
Or find practitioners like myself who may have a bit more of an understanding about it and question us and say, the clinic is offering this. Do I need it? And there was a really good documentary on, I think, Panorama or something like that, about the hidden additional IVF costs. Some of them are totally unnecessary, but it's new things that have come about, but there's no regulation behind them. So until they're not regulated, it's really difficult to know. There are some treatments I totally agree with, like PGT testing, if you've got genetic issues, intralipid infusions, if you definitely know that you've definitely got like a autoimmune condition. But some of them I wouldn't have a clue about, but I think are totally unnecessary.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Raki, I'm going to ask you a question of somebody who's probably talking about their own journey at the moment. So they've said that they have a thin lining of their womb, which is about 5 millimeters, and they've tried tamoxifen, but it's not getting any thicker. They were on cycle 3 and nothing happened, and they've asked for any suggestions from you to help them.
Reflexology or acupuncture, definitely. If you can get, someone to work on your body with the needles or the hands and feet for the reflexology, there are points that reflexologists like myself will give the client to help stimulate lining and boost lining. Look into the foods you're eating as well. And I will probably need to double check this, but I can't remember if it's correct or not. But I think vitamin E is supposed to help as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question here from someone who said they have low AMH. What does that mean?
So AMH on its own means absolutely nothing. It's to test the egg reserve, but unless you don't have a antral follicle count scan done, so the scan of the ovaries to see how many follicles you have got, AMH on its own is meaningless. So doctors will say, oh, your AMH is low, it means they base it on egg count. It's not egg count, it's your egg quality. And I have had clients with low AMH but loads of follicles on their ovaries, so it could go either way.
So what other information would they need to have to?
So they definitely need to have the scan. So if they can get a scan of the ovaries, and if they've got, I don't know, 7-8 follicles on the ovaries, then AMH is typically egg quality. So boost your nutrition, change your lifestyle. That will help potentially increase the AMH levels.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so coming to supplements now. So there's somebody who's been asked, who's been advised to take 25 mg of high dose vitamin D, and due to low vitamin D level. So should they take a separate folic acid supplement, as some supplements have vitamin D and folic acid combined?
So, okay, so without knowing their health history, you can always take folic acid, but I wouldn't recommend folic acid that you get off the shelf. Opt for methylfolate, which is your methylated folic acid, which is more bioavailable to the body, and you can take safely take up to 800 to 1,000 milligrams of it.
Okay.
So I have another question here from someone who's asking, I have irregular cycles. Can I still conceive?
Yes, is the answer, but it's going to be a lot harder because you don't know when you're ovulating or if you're ovulating. So this is where I would definitely recommend looking into diet, lifestyle, hormonal testing, and then working on yourselves to regulate your cycles, because without a good ovulation, your cycles are irregular anyway. That means that you're not producing the right levels of progesterone. You may have too much estrogen. But if you don't know that you're ovulating, you're not releasing an egg that can be fertilized. It's not that you can't, but you just don't know when.
So it is possible. There is a way to do things to help make irregular cycles regular. So that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, so coming on to gluten and dairy free. So you've mentioned drinking organic full-fat cow's milk. So for those who can't have dairy, what would you recommend? So that's for dairy. And then in terms of gluten-free alternatives, can you use gluten-free pasta and flour for rottlis, or just not eat this at all?
So you've got all the coconut milk would be the next option from cow's milk, because coconut milk still has an element of fat in it. Then you've got things like oat milk, almond milk, all the nut milks, and that, as long as you don't have a nut allergy. The only problem with those sorts of milks at the moment is you need to read the ingredients. If they have any seed oils, so vegetable oils or sunflower oil, or that, don't consume those. The brand Plenish is a really good, clean brand that does good non-dairy milks. And anyone on a fertility journey, also, I would say avoid soy milk. Don't go down the soy milk route. Gluten-free. So you get pastas which are like chickpea, lentil, spinach, all of those. And you can also, I think, get maize pasta. They're the gluten-free I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend going down the gluten-free aisle to pick up what's traditionally a gluten-free pasta. And a rotli, I'm so lucky. My mom has been experimenting with so many different things because I think she has like wheat sensitivity, and a lot of my clients do as well. So Ferrari Atto, those in North London, VBs, go and get your Ferrari Atto and you can make your rotlis from there. But rotla would be a really good option for people to have. So badro, juar, those sorts of things. But there's so many other flours that are not your typical gluten-free. Like I said, try and avoid an alternative gluten-free, but have something that's naturally gluten-free, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. I think one of the things that people usually struggle with is wheat. It's like your biscuits and your bread and your pasta. So the fact that there are these natural alternatives that we do have, especially in our Indian diet, is actually quite useful for us.
Yeah.
I have a question for Baren, and perhaps Raki, you can also say, as a male, I enjoy cycling. Should I completely stop cycling?
Okay, I've done a bit of research on this. When you cycle, you do heat up your groin area quite a lot. You're wearing really tight pants, juddies, shorts. Plus, you're sitting on a very narrow saddle, and I get chances are you're cycling for at least an hour. Therefore, you're heating up that whole area for so long. An alternative is doing some calisthenics exercises, and it's only a short term, right? So I'm assuming you're going to go through the life cycle of trying to conceive a baby, and then once you finish, you can go back to cycling. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. And Raki, I don't know if you want to add anything.
So again, ideally no cycling. Where are the issues lying? What's your sperm test showing? That will depict the answer. But as Paran said, short term, if you can just stop it for the next 3 to 4 months, help that sperm reboost. And then once you're pregnant, bang, you can go back to it. Until baby number 2 or 3.
One other thing is normally people wear, there's many types of underwear that a man can wear. The looser the better, if that's right, because the tighter it generates heat.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you, Paran.
Okay, so talking about transfers now, I'm going to merge some questions here. So, what is the best in transfer? Is it day 3 or a blastocyst? And then, is it advisable to do a fresh transfer or frozen? As many say that frozen gives better results.
Okay, so I'm not an IVF specialist. I'm not a medical person, but I can give you what I know and my opinions. So Sham and Shivani were a day 3 transfer because the quality of them was going down, and the clinic wasn't sure whether they'd last till day 5. So we had a day 3. A lot of clinics are now opting for blastocyst because there is a 70% higher chance of a pregnancy occurring from a blastocyst embryo. So a lot of clinics are opting for that, but it swings and roundabouts. You've got to work with your clinic on this, because a lot of clients have had good level of embryos on day 3, and then day 5 they've either got none or it's really dwindled down. So you've got to work with your clinic. I don't think there's either that's right or wrong with this. And then fresh or frozen. So again, it just depends. Like I said, Sham and Shivani were a fresh transfer. I don't think they would have survived the freezing process. We had 6 embryos, 4 had to be discarded because they just weren't of any quality to be frozen. Frozen, I understand in the point that if you've been through a traumatic first half of an IVF cycle, it allows your body to detox those chemicals, to become in a calm space, for you to mentally and physically clear yourself from that trauma that you've experienced in the IVF cycle, and then go for a frozen. The only thing you have with the frozen is you risk that embryo not thawing or dying in the thawing process. So again, you've got to weigh up your pros and cons.
Okay.
I think we're going to do a couple more questions. So I've got one here, which I think is actually quite sort of topical. If you haven't yet found your partner in life in your 30s, should you freeze your eggs?
It's a really big topic, and I think if you have the opportunity, yes, do it. However, don't just go and do it tomorrow. Work on yourself over the next 3 to 6 months. Really boost your nutrition, clear any inflammation or anything that's going on, because everything affects the egg quality. And this really gives you the opportunity to create really good, healthy eggs that can be used further down the line. And the earlier you do this, the better, because obviously your eggs are much healthier the earlier you are in your age.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so there's a question on somebody had them having 0% morphology. Can they still conceive?
So this is yes and no. I'm going to get to my friendly. So 0% morphology is you have the sperm, the morphology is the head. How many of the sperm actually have a head? And it's the head that penetrates through into the egg to create the baby. So if you have sperm which has like either deformed head or no head, or those sort of things, you're not really going to create a baby. And if you do, what are the chances of that having like health issues or things like that? So you may need IVF, because they have specialist IVF that they can use on the 0% morphology if you've still got loads of sperm, because they test the morphology in the whole sample. So you may have one sperm that actually is fully formed, but that just hasn't been counted in that count. So yes, you can potentially conceive, but if you know that you've got 0% morphology, go and get a DNA fragmentation test that does advanced sperm test, and then work on your lifestyle to increase that morphology to even 1%, then you have a higher chance.
Okay.
We've still got a little bit of time, so I'm just going to go with a couple more questions. Any tips on when trying to conceive if you're not sure if you have infertility issues? So there are many myths, and I guess this is things that go around. Handstands after sex, should I have sex every 1.5 days? Acupuncture, any tips at all?
Okay, so you don't need to do handstands. You don't need to lift your legs up in the air. Those are things I was thinking whether I should have put in the presentation or not. So I'm glad someone has asked it.
Yes.
No, you don't need to do any of those things. You've got to think at penetration, when that sperm has entered your body, the sperm that are going to swim have swam. They're so fast and they've gone to wherever they need to go to. So you can lie straight. If you feel it's going to help you in your situation, by all means do it, but there is no research behind any of those things of doing it. And then what was the other part?
Acupuncture, would that help?
I am a firm believer of acupuncture, reflexology, all of that. My clients will come to me for reflexology because I am a reflexologist. We had acupuncture, we both had it. So again, everything you think you're going to do, apply it to both of you, because it helps both of you to work on that. But yeah, no, acupuncture, absolutely fine. Total firm believer of it.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about, the different kinds of tests that we need to do. And, the basics that the NHS will do. So if the doctor is not going to test them, where else can they get the tests done?
So it depends on what tests they are looking at. So, for example, semen test, anyone who can get to Bond Street in London, there is a private lab that will do a full comprehensive semen test there, and they do advanced semen tests there as well. I use another private lab who will do blood tests for your FSH, your LH, thyroid. Thyroid is the one that I send them to anyway. So it just depends on what tests you do need done, which your doctor is refusing. And so there's other there's private companies who will offer those for you. And then failing that, if you're looking for IVF, just speak to your IVF clinic, who will probably arrange some of those tests as well.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Raki. I think we've come to the end of our time. I'd really like to thank you for giving an excellent presentation. There was so much information in there, a lot of practical stuff, a lot of very new stuff, and a lot of stuff for people to go away and digest. We've had so many questions come through. For those of you, if you haven't managed to get your question answers, I'd suggest please email through at wellbeing@oshwal.org. We'll try and get them through to Raki to answer. Raki and Paren, both of you, thank you so much for coming on today and giving us your wealth of experience. I'd also like to thank Kilit Pai on our technical side, on our IT side, who's made sure our YouTube and our Zoom links are working. Thank you, all of you, for joining at home. We hope you really enjoyed the webinar. As I've said, the webinar has been recorded. It will be available for anyone to view on our Oshwal YouTube channel, also on our website, and we're also uploading the presentation that Raki has given with all that wealth of information on there. I'd like to wish you all a very good night, Jai Jinendra, and good evening, and we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
प्रभु ना दर्शन करता सिद्ध प्रभु ना दर्शन करता आचार्यों ने वंदन करता उपाध्याय ने वंदन करता सर्व साधु ने वंदन करता सम्यक दर्शन मुझने मर्जो सम्यक ज्ञान मुझने मर्जो